A couple of years ago, I set out on a journey. I was going to learn 3D animation. Why? Well, I like making films. But the problem is, a lot of my ideas are so huge that it would be impossible to shoot in real life. So I picked up Blender. And in 2025, I uploaded my first Blender short. And the feedback I got from you guys was so nice. So of course, I wanted to do another one. I set out with a more complex idea, exploring new techniques, going through a solid dose of suffering. So overpasses are pretty cool in general, right? Like we're talking like roads stacked on top of other roads. And despite probably being like complex, insane engineering, I think they look pretty dang good. I have a couple of overpasses where I live, and I always walk by them thinking, this is cool. But then I also thought, what if I put this on steroids? So I started to build a scene in Blender, using a lot of curves, creating some spline roads, duplicating and stacking them. And pretty quickly I ended up with this huge spaghetti maze of overpasses, which honestly I thought looked pretty sick. And while thinking about what I wanted to animate on this thing, one thing came to mind that I hadn't done before. Motorcycles. And when it comes to motorcycles, I have a really weak spot for dirt bikes. The overall design is so cool and they're just really fun to watch. So I went ahead and bought a pretty decent looking bike model. I made a character in DAZ 3D and immediately ran into my first real problem. How the f do you rig this? And I swear, there are like a million different tutorials on how to rig a car, but the second it's not like a perfect four-wheel vehicle, I mean, what's going on? But then completely by accident, I noticed something. The bike that I downloaded, carefully inspecting it in Blender, I noticed it had an attached rig. But I couldn't really use it. So I found out that the creator had used like this add-on that I just had to buy, and suddenly I had all the controls. Maximum control. So now I have all my assets. I brought the bike into Substance Painter and I gave it this like chrome finish. I gave the character some clothes in Marvelous Designer, including the now kind of recurring madness hoodie. And I was about to make pants with cloth simulation as well. But as much as I love Marvelous Designer, I could already see the problems. You know, the character's knees smashing into the bike, cloth getting stuck around the engine. No, I'm not doing that. Now I needed to figure out, what is this film about? I wanted it to kind of feel like it had some sort of backbone of a story. So I came up with this idea of seeing the overpass through this like lonesome, maybe slightly stalkerish photographer. And he's someone that's obsessed with this like structure itself, which is kind of the third character in this story if you really think about it, but also obsessed with documenting and capturing this like mythical rider who shreds the overpass at night. That's what I got. So what I usually do to get started, and this is a technique that I've been using for many years, it's basically editing the whole piece with texts before you even start doing anything. I just write a short sentence for each shot, and I do that all the way to the end until I'm left with something like this.
The city died after the 9th storm. They called it the static seasons. I thought it was beautiful.
And yeah, you get the idea. It's just a great way to kind of nail down how many shots you need to produce. And it's not like the edit is locked at this point, but I would say like 80-90% of the finished film follows my initial text edit almost like down to the frame. Now for this piece, I actually figured out that I was better off hand animating everything, which is a bold thing to say. And first of all, hand animating is really hard. But what surprised me was that how fun it actually is. It took a while to get into the groove, but once I did, it became really satisfying to see that with enough tweaking, you can actually get something that doesn't look half as bad as you thought it would. The hardest part for me, I think, was getting like a smooth flow in the animation. even when the overall kind of motion is correct, I do often feel like it feels so stiff. And there was one thing I didn't really think about. My computer wasn't really able to play back everything in real time. It wasn't until I had rendered a bunch of previews that I realized like this is going so fast. I did fix the worst ones, but some of them are actually in the edit still. And I still to this day feel like they're going a little bit too fast. After animating all the shots, I needed to create like the photographs for the film, because in the edit there are moments where we don't actually see any like animation. We're just seeing like still photos supposed to be taken by our main character. And this was honestly like really fun because it was kind of a time and place in the project where I was a little bit tired of doing a lot of repetitive tasks. So this was kind of a nice little break where I could just like go into the mind of a still photographer, thinking about where would the photographer stand? What focal length would make sense for this angle? What would be planned or what would just happen by accident? Because trying to get a perfect composition, perfect sharpness, while the writer is just blasting towards you in high speed and you're trying to whip pan with the camera, that's really hard. Trying to fake some of those imperfections that happens with the motion blur. I think that was kind of a fun little challenge, which I really enjoyed. And honestly, I really like how these turned out. I'm even considering like printing some of them in real life because yeah, I think they look great. What turned out to be the most difficult and hardest part in this whole project for me was lighting. And I didn't think that was going to be a problem at all. I set up my lighting, I rendered like one shot, composited it, graded it, hated it, did the whole thing over again, hated it again, did the whole thing over again, hated it more. But eventually I realized kind of what the problem was. I think it came down to me trying to art direct light that didn't really make sense. I added like rim lights, bounce light, anything that you can think of to make the character pop out a little bit more. I found that what was working was stripping it all away. The premise of the whole idea was to have it at night. It was supposed to be dim. It was supposed to be dark. So I guess I kind of just stopped fighting the darkness and embraced it. And also my lightning strikes, they started hitting a lot harder because now they came in like a huge contrast. I was overcomplicating it a little bit, but I'm so glad that I was able to kind of get my head out of that space and focus on what was important, I guess. And when I finally came past that, it was time to go to render mode. And of course, I had previously said in my last video that I would never render anything in 4K again. So naturally, I rendered everything in 4K again. I mean, I had already spent like half a year on this. What's 1 month? But I was going into a project that demanded a lot of my daytime, so I knew that I could be rendering on my computer when I was off doing other work. So it was a calculated move. Trust me. I'm getting more comfortable in Nuke now, and it's really become my software of choice when it comes to compositing, which is a really good thing, and it's really fun. Even though I sometimes feel like I'm a 6-year-old going like, okay, so if I merge this, can I then mask this? One very important thing that I learned is that if something doesn't look good in 3D, compositing won't really save it. It can help for sure, but mostly it just makes it less shitty. And to go back to the lighting issues that I had, I think some of the problems that I faced was I'm starting to get better at compositing, but still if my renders were bad, I could kind of fix it in comp, but I kept staring at these shots like something's off. Again, I had to go all the way back to 3D because if you come into comp with a really solid render, there's nothing more fun than comping it. You're not like putting out a fucking fire, you're making something that looks good even better. And that's what we want. And the same thing goes for color grading. Trying to grade a bad shot is never fun. Whereas when the shot already works, grading suddenly feels easy. And for this piece, I needed to create like one solid night look. That can be a little bit tricky. Like there's no correct way doing a night look. Like some goes very blue, some goes very teal, do day for night. Everyone does it differently. So I just tried to find a look that felt right for this piece. I ended up keeping it fairly neutral and desaturated. And at the end of the day, I'm mostly just about making it feel cohesive. And if a shot really sticks out like a sore thumb, I don't like. There were definitely things that I could have kept tweaking, but at some point, I think you have to decide that this version is the one that gets to exist. Making projects like this really reminds me why I love being creative in the first place. It feels like being a kid again, drawing, building, playing, and it's all without needing anyone or anything else than my imagination. You know, not that long ago, 3D and VFX for me felt like wizardry. And now it's like right there if you're just willing to learn. And that's amazing. And I think we're gonna see more and more people just make incredible stuff completely on their own terms. And I really love that. I think that's so cool. It's really fun to do these longer projects, but I've also come to realize that I really enjoy this YouTube thing, like making videos like this. So I'm planning to do more shorter projects coming up. If you want to follow along on that, consider subscribing. And thank you so much for hanging out with me, breaking down Overpass. I'll see you on the next one.